Dunkin' has a whole new line of handcrafted signature lattes. Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, and Cocoa Mocha. They're so delicious, you'll realize that you've been spending a whole latte time drinking the wrong coffee. So even though you've been together for years, it's time to say goodbye to your ex, Coffee Place. Because you've got a latte love for Dunkin's signature lattes. Sipping is believing with Dunkin's new handcrafted signature lattes, like Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, or Cocoa Mocha. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.
We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. Hey.
Okay. All right, well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Source Material Comics Podcast coming right back at you. We're going into episode 231. We are going to be discussing, oh boy, this was a mind-boggler of a book. Mark Radulich decided that we were going to cover Doom Patrol. This is the Gerard Way iteration of the Doom Patrol coming from 2016. So let's go ahead and we got some guests on the podcast as well. Let's go around the horn here. First off, Mark Radulich, are you ready, sir? Where are you podcasting from again?
I am currently podcasting from an undisclosed location deep in the bowels of an underground network known as Radulich Mobile Studio 1.
Oh, Mobile Studio. Okay. All right. And on the horn with us all the way from the Great White North, it's Hero. Hero has come back to discuss some... Oh, we're going to be talking Doom Patrol, buddy. Are you ready?
Pants, Murd, it's great to be with you guys tonight.
Wrong podcast, sir.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Yes, I'm ready. Yes.
All right. And Chris Sheehan from the Cosmic Treadmill. Welcome back to the Source Material Podcast. And I cannot wait to lean heavily upon you tonight about Doom Patrol. I think Mark is definitely going to be looking forward to your input.
And not for nothing, but I'm going to let Chris talk, and then I'm going to tell the nurse to come in here and get my vitals.
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they do them about 2 or 3 times per hour. Jesus Christ.
We call what Chris does full treadmill.
Yeah. This is going to be a fun one here. This is one that this is a team. This is a DC property I've never really had a chance to read anything on. Doom Patrol. Mark Radulich, tell me why in the world are we doing this book tonight?
The short answer is because this is the week that we are reviewing the Doom Patrol series given to us by DC Universe, Season 1. We'll be reviewing that this Thursday on a TV party tonight. Why did I choose this book and not the Grant Morrison stuff? Jesse, you and I have been doing these comic book podcasts for a while now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if we do anything earlier than the 90s, it's nosebleeds and wordiness. It's just a bad time. We're gonna have a bad time. Mm-hmm. So I was like, no, I don't want to do the Grant Morrison stuff because I feel like we're not going to enjoy it. We're not going to appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of me complaining that books are for burning. So I was like, let me see what else is out there. And I hadn't watched, but when I chose the book, I hadn't watched the DC show yet. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where they're leaning, what iteration of the Doom Patrol they're leaning on. So I kind of just flipped through a couple of different volumes of Doom Patrols and decided that this one got really high marks, very high ratings, star reviews and whatnot. And I was like, okay, this was a fairly recent book. I think it's 2016. So that's good. That's right in our wheelhouse. It's written at it's supposed to be written at a 4th grade reading level. That's good for this podcast. It's fairly recent. There's a good chance that they're basing the TV show off. Maybe some of this stuff was my guess. But then, okay, this would be a good one to start with. I couldn't be more wrong.
No.
And Chris Sheehan's going to spend the next 90 minutes telling us why.
There you go.
Well, Mark, before we hop into the book, you watched Titans. We talked Titans, as a matter of fact, when we watched.
We did.
And so Doom Patrol had a little bit. They had like two or three episodes. Maybe it's just 1 or 2. I can't remember. But,
I believe it was like 1 or 2.
Okay, so they showed up in there. What do you think at least their iteration or their take of Doom Patrol in that series?
I don't know. I was half asleep at the time.
Oh, okay. Was that before CPAP?
That was free CPAP.
CPAP.
That was sleepy, Mark.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I watched a little bit of the first episode of the Doom Patrol series, and of course, we'll talk about that later this week when we finally get to it. So, yeah, creative team, real quick. Like I said, this is the first 6 issues of the 2016 volume of Doom Patrol, which I believe this is volume 6.
Yes.
So there have been quite a few stories told about the Doom Patrol prior to this. I think I saw like the first series. Now, Sheehan, I know I'm probably stepping on you here, but I think it was 1963.
Yeah, they first appeared in My Greatest Adventure, and then they took over that title 6 issues later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the creative team on this book, Gerard Way, which has also been in Netflix series, The Umbrella Academy. Which is, I think, my favorite team television series when it comes to team superheroes. I really like the Umbrella Academy.
We'll be doing that on a TV party tonight and a source material later this year.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Pencils on this book is Nick Darrington. Inks are Tom Fowler. Colors are Tamara Bonvillain. And letters are Todd Klein.
The colors were brought to you by the Sunday Funnies. Like
Mark, it was a light book. It was a fun book. That's what you're supposed to get out of this.
Fucking looked like for better or for worse. Jesus Christ.
Chris Sheehan has brought a lot of foreknowledge. Me personally, and I know Mark, do not have any experience with this team. So we need a foundation to kind of guide us here. And Chris Sheehan's definitely stepped up to the plate and said he was going to do that for us. So I am going to turn the floor over to him to let us all in on some history of the Doom Patrol.
Yes, but before we go to Doom School, I do want to say that this is really cool to be able to talk to folks who don't have a history with this team, because Reggie and I have covered every single issue coming out from this pop-up imprint. This is from the Young Animal imprint. Mm-hmm. The Gerard Way curated one. It included Doom Patrol, also Shade the Changing Girl, which turned into Shade the Changing Woman. You had Cave Carson as a cybernetic eye, which turned into Cave Carson as an interstellar eye. You had Mother Panic, Gotham AD, The Adventures of Bug. I mean, there were a bunch of these miniseries and full series. And we covered all of them for the WeirdScienceDCComics.com podcast. And we had moved our bits over to our own feed. So if you want every single thing that ever came out of Young Animal, you go over to ChrisandReggie.com. The playlist is 30 hours long. If you start listening right now, this time tomorrow, you're still going to have a lot to do. So
let me help you out here. If you subscribe to the Cosmic Threadfield podcast on Podcoin,
here we go.
And 30 hours getting all those shows, and you can get a lot of credits to trade in for Starbucks and Amazon gift cards.
So I have listened to every episode of what Chris is talking about, and all I will say, you know what? You thought Stan Lee and Jim Starlin did some dope, brother. You have not seen Young Animals. Yikes!
But early on in our series here, we one of the questions we kept asking ourselves, because we enjoyed this quite a bit, not to put the cart in front of the horse, but we wondered how new readers would dig this, because so much of this is fan service and callbacks to the past. So it's going to be real interesting and enlightening to hear your guys' take on it, because you guys aren't looking at it with nostalgia. You guys are looking at it. You guys are looking for a story, where we were kind of looking for the band getting back together and just enjoying the characters bouncing off one another here. But you guys are looking for a story, and there might not be one here. So we'll get to that, though. But first, let's learn a little bit about the Doom Patrol.
And now it's time to go full treadmill.
As mentioned, their first appearance, My Greatest Adventure, number 80. That was June 1963 cover date. They were created by Arnold Drake, Bruno Premiani, and depending on who you ask and when you ask, Bob Haney. Now the team, these are all rendered they're all rendered freaks as a result of accidents that they'd been in. First, we got Robotman, Cliff Steele. He was a race car driver whose body was destroyed in a wreck. Only his brain survived, which was summarily plopped into a robot head. Elastigirl, Rita Farr. She was a Hollywood actress exposed to volcanic gases while in Africa, and she can grow or shrink her body and limbs. She still looks normal, though, so she's like the least freakish. We got Negative Man, Larry Traynor. He was an Air Force test pilot. He crashed into a radioactive field and now can emit a negative being from his body. There's also the Chief, Niles Calder, but we'll talk more about him later. We could possibly talk about the comparisons between the Doom Patrol and the X-Men. They would appear a few months later across the street at Marvel. Or the comparisons between the Doom Patrol and the Fantastic Four, which I feel are more point to point, but they'd already been around a few years at this point. And this has kind of been done to death, so we just won't. My Greatest Adventure, which had mostly been generic sci-fi and adventure strips, they would change its title to Doom Patrol with issue number 86. That's March 1964 cover date. Along the way, the team would recruit new members, including Beast Boy, Gar Logan, and Mento, Steve Dayton. Dayton and Rita Farr would get married in Doom Patrol issue 104, and they would adopt Logan as their own son. Now, this volume would end with issue 121. This is October 1968 cover date, and it ended with the team nobly sacrificing their lives to save the small fishing town of Codsville, Maine, that had a population of 14 people. Now, the series ends with the team seemingly dead, but this is comics, so of course not. Now, Paul Kupperberg would resurrect the Doom Patrol concept in Showcase number 94. This is August-September 1977 cover date. Now, Showcase was a series that featured the first appearances of Barry Allen and Hal Jordan. It kicked off the Silver Age just a couple decades prior. This is DC's testing ground for new concepts or for new takes on old concepts, like the Doom Patrol. Now, Kupperberg's team only includes one original member, Robotman, who somehow survived the explosive end of the first volume, probably because he's a robot. Other new Doom Patrol members include Celsius. Her name is Arani Desai Calder. She claims to be the chief's secret wife. We have Tempest, Josh Clay, and Negative Woman Val Vostok. Now, Larry Trainor's negative self would take up residence in her body after the explosion, but we're not supposed to know that yet. This new-look Doom Patrol would run for 3 issues of Showcase before being shelved for 10 years. The team would not get another volume for 10 years. So Doom Patrol Volume 2, Number 1. That launched with an October 1987 cover date. This was Paul Kupperberg writing with Steve Lytle on art. Eric Larson from the Savage Dragon, he would come in sometime in there for some pencil work as well. Now, the gimmick here is that Celsius finds out that Cliff wasn't the only survivor of Codsville. Her husband Niles did too, and the Doom Patrol have got to find him. Along the way, 3 young Doomies would join up. They're kind of analogous to Marvel's New Mutants. It's just like a little team of trainees. You got 3 of them here. You got Lodestone, Rhea Jones, Karma, Wayne Hawkins, and Blaze, even though he dies before they ever call him that, Scott Fisher. We jump to issue 14, November 1988 cover date. This sees the first appearance of an ape-faced girl named Dorothy Spinner, and she'll be important later on. Issue 15, December 1988 cover, sees the return of the Chief. Now, around this time, change was in the air at DC, and there was the Invasion storyline where the gene bomb goes off and people with latent meta abilities get their abilities wakened in them. So this would fundamentally change a lot of the DC universe, including the Doom Patrol. During this arc, Celsius dies, Scott Fisher dies, Larry Trainor gets a new body and reclaims the negative entity, Karma leaves the team, and Lodestone is rendered comatose. Also, the book would get an all-new creative team, who was only interested in working with the Chief and Robotman. This is, of course, the Grant Morrison run. We have Grant Morrison and Richard Case starting their run with issue 19, February 1989 cover date. Now, the Morrison run is most people's favorite, and I highly recommend it personally. But in the interest of brevity and not gushing, I'll keep this as short as possible. We got new members here. We got Crazy Jane, also known as Kay Chalice. She joins the team. Dorothy Spinner, that ape-faced girl, she joins the team. Tempest, Josh Clay from the second incarnation, he stays on, but he's not a field member. He's kind of just there as an advisory position there. Larry merges bodies with a female doctor and takes on the name Rebus. It's a whole new take on his character. The stories would go on to become darker, satiric, very less straight superheroics than we're accustomed to, but still, at their core, superhero stories. Mature and straight-up horror themes are explored here. Characters introduced along the line are Danny the Street and Flex Mentalo. There was also a magician named Willoughby Kipling who joined up with them for a bit. He was originally going to be John Constantine, but DC editorial said, no. The ultimate reveal of the Grant Morrison run, and spoiler alert if you don't know, is that the accidents that the original 3 Doom Patrol members were orchestrated by the Chief, Niles Calder. He wanted to put them through tragic events to make them better people, and to bring them together, of course. He winds up beheaded by one of Dorothy Spinner's imaginary friends, known as the Candlemaker. And, Dorothy Spinner can make her imaginary friends real. That's her thing. Now, during the latter half of the Morrison run, the letters pages would often have playfully antagonistic missives from someone named Rachel Pollack. Pollock would actually come on as new writer with issue 63. Now, 63 was the first Vertigo-branded issue. Despite DC releasing the entire Morrison run under the Vertigo banner, it was never Vertigo. It was always just straight DC. Pollock's run felt deeply personal and explored things like sexuality, transgenderism, and various religions. The Doomies would move into a haunted house called Rainbow Estates, and they'd live alongside ghosts who all died in sexual accidents. It's true. New members of the team would include the Bandage People. This is a husband and wife pair of mummies. And Coagula, Kate Godwin, who is perhaps the first transsexual DC character. Now, this volume would run until issue number 87, February 1995 cover date. The Chief finally dies at the end, but during the entirety of the Pollock run, he had been nothing more than a disembodied head kept in a tray of ice. So, there's that. The Doom Patrol would go away for a bit, but they would return with a third volume with a December 2001 cover date. This one was written by John Arcudi with art by Tan Ang Huat. Now, it's said that following the end of the previous volume, Dorothy Spinner, that ape-faced girl, had a sort of breakdown which killed the entire team. After which she fell into a coma and imagined up a brand new Robotman. Now, this Robotman would go on to join a brand new Doom Patrol. This was a corporately owned Doom Patrol. A guy named Thayer Jost bought the intellectual property, I suppose. And superheroes going corporate was kind of a thing we had to deal with around the turn of the century. It was something they did way too often. Now, new Doom Patrol members include, and it's a team of kids. It's a Fast Forward, Kid Slick, Fever, and Freak. We're not really going to be talking about them, so we'll move past as quick as we can here. Fake Robotman finally realizes that he was fake, and he vanishes. The new Doomies manage to track down the real deal, and then he gets another brand new body. All that good stuff. There was a second Doom Patrol running around during this time, and that included Elongated Man, Beast Boy, Metamorpho, and Dr. Light. And that is the good Dr. Light, not the rapist. This volume lasted 22 issues. So everything is, looking good. But then, on the horizon, it's John Byrne. JLA number 94, May 2004 cover date, marked the reunion of Chris Claremont and John Byrne. They told a story that was called The 10th Circle. Because you see a Roman numeral for 10 is an X, and if you put a circle around it, it kind of looks familiar.
Yeah. Where have I heard this team at before?
I wonder. Now, during this JLA run, Byrne would introduce the Doom Patrol. This is the Chief, Robotman, Elastigirl, and Negative Man for the first time, because everything that happened before was wiped away, because John Byrne said so.
All right.
Convenient.
Isn't it? Now, this messed up
familiar.
Doesn't it? Now, this messed up continuity not only for the Doom Patrol, but for the New Teen Titans, who had a lot of crossover with the Doom Patrol during the early Wolfman Perez run. Basically, any character that ever met or teamed with the Doom Patrol in the entire half century before this, they had their continuity, messed up. Now, this incarnation of the Doom Patrol would get its own ongoing series, and it began with cover date August 2004. We get 3 new members that don't matter: Nudge, Grunt, and Vortex. Yeah. This run sucked. There was a bit about Robotman trying to make out with an underage Elastigirl. It was not good. It wound up running only 18 issues, and it ended with cover date January 2006. Then, Infinite Crisis. If you remember Infinite Crisis, Superboy Prime punched reality, and this incorporated all versions of the Doom Patrol back into continuity. In order to make this all jive, we would get a 5th volume of the Doom Patrol. This one was written by Keith Giffen, with art mostly by Matthew Clark. This series launched with an August 2009 cover date. The team would relocate to Oolong Island and get a few new members. We have Vox, who we know as Malcolm Duncan. He was formerly known as Hornblower, formerly known as Herald, formerly known as Guardian, and formerly known as Mal. He was a Teen Titan. His wife, Bumblebee, also Ambush Bug. In this run, Elastigirl becomes Elastawoman. Danny the Street becomes Danny the Brick, and later Danny the Bungalow. We also get an appearance from Super Hip, who is the alter ego of Bob Hope's comic book nephew.
What?
The Adventures of Bob Hope comic book that ran for 100 years back in the early half of the century. He had a nephew, and he would turn into Super Hip. There is a review of that on chrisisoninfiniteearths.com. He unfortunately doesn't join the team. Now, admittedly, it's been about a decade since I've read this run, and I didn't quite get to it this weekend, but I do remember liking it quite a bit. It was canceled to make room for the New 52, and they even make a joke about it at the end of the series. The final issue of this run was number 22, and it had a July 2011 cover date. During the New 52, the Doom Patrol showed up a couple times in Justice League. Their first appearance there was Justice League Volume 2, number 24, December 2013 cover date. We get a new Doomie in Element Woman, and it's implied here that Niles and Lex Luthor have some sort of a history together, but something shiny...
Tell me it's that they're in love and a couple.
I think they're going to move into Rainbow Estates, yes. But something shiny distracted everybody involved, so they made one more appearance and were never heard from again until the book we're about to discuss right now.
All right. Wow. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you putting in work tonight, buddy. It means a lot to me. It means a lot. All right, real quick, I'll do a synopsis, and then we're going to get to some comments and our thoughts here, okay? So 2016... volume of Doom Patrol. Here we go. The Doom Patrol is back. Well, sort of. These first issues of Gerard Way's 2016 iteration detail the reuniting of this wacky superhero team. The main protagonist we follow in these issues is an EMT ambulance driver by the name of Casey Brinke, who just so happens to be present when a returning Robotman is hit by a garbage truck. This sets Casey on a path to put the team together, consisting of Robotman, Captain Trainer Crazy Jane, Flex Metallo, and others, all with the help of the sentient reality-producing street brick ambulance, Danny. I've got questions about Danny. When we get there, I have so many questions. Our main plot is centered around an evil race called the Vectra, who plan to torture Danny to produce people in order to grind them into hamburger meat for their fast food joint, Danny Burgers. As absurd as that sounds, that's just the beginning. Wait until, among other craziness, we learn that Casey was a fictional superhero brought to life in Danny's own creation, Dannyland, or when the team finds the Church of the Multiform. Doom Patrol is a unique take on a strange team that has been in DC's pages since the 1960s, and Gerard Way's Brick by Brick is a great start to a new chapter for these characters. So that's kind of like my synopsis / pitch, because you trust me, I wanted to go through and detail everything that happened, but I had nothing to... there were things that were happening throughout this. I was like, okay, that has to do with something, but I have no idea what.
Can I ask that you be honest and just say you got that from like Comic Vine or something? There's no way you wrote that.
There's no way I wrote that? You don't believe I wrote that? I wrote that, sir.
No.
Straight from the old brain pan. I'm telling you what. Seriously, I would give credit. I would never read somebody else's stuff and call it my own.
Really? You got that out of the story, huh? Okay, you're a better man than I.
I read all 6 issues there, Mark Radulich.
Yeah, so did I. Read them in quotes.
I'll send you all the notes I fucking had, and it was like, okay, this is trash. I've got to just put this in a paragraph because there's no way I can make sense of this. Anyway, all right, well, let's go ahead. Let's get around the horn here. We haven't heard much from Hero here, and you had the chance to read this book. Have you read this book before, Hero?
I have not touched this book with a 10-foot pole before this, sir. Maybe not again, but I was a big fan of the early Larsen run back in the 80s. You can smack me for all you want for that one. But, I used to like Doom Patrol. I had a lot of the Silver Age stuff as well. So when I got to this version, I was sort of taken aback. Now, you know what? I know I was giving it to Chris on Twitter earlier saying that I hated it and that it was such and such, fecal matter and such. I will say that it was fairly enjoyable. So the art, number one, is quirky. You know what I mean? It's quirky. It has a fun little vibe. It's an easy read. It almost feels like Scott Pilgrim-y at times, if you know what that is. Mm-hmm. So, a cool new look. And, it brings back the Doom Patrol from scratch. So we're sort of getting like a full-on reboot here as well. They got cool villains, the Vectra. They got a cool, I don't know even how to describe it, like a Tron sort of look as far as I'm concerned, with like the, grid lines on them and all that stuff. Kind of fun, kind of cool, really, really quirky, almost disturbingly weird at times. I mean, there's some stuff in here. I mean, you got an ambulance, you got Dannyland, you got Jesus. I don't even know where to begin with this thing.
Seriously.
Good Lord, you
got the little Teddy Ruxpin too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he reaches in, it's all goopy tape inside its belly, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, that's a Teddy Ruxpin meets that thing from She-Ra that's hiding out in the woods. I don't know how to describe it, but but you know what? Overall, I know, Chris, I gave you a hard time over it, but this is not a terrible reintroduction to the Doom Patrol here. So I was kind of on board. So with that being said, Wait a second. Gentlemen, look at the time.
Oh, what?
Murd, Pants,
What?
Peter. Inconceivably, gentlemen, I must depart as I leave the Doom Patrol in your capable hands of our listeners. Sadly, I have to go get my Michael Jackson as Captain EO tattoo removed from my armpit and acquire my full refund. I'll just let my landlord know right away that I just won't be paying the rent this month, so I might be going into witness protection. Brethren, I bid you a good night.
That's horrible. Oh, my goodness. Best of luck to Chris Bailey.
What just happened?
Mark has no clue. No clue.
No.
No. Well, we wish CB3 a speedy recovery from the tattoo removal. All right. Well, Mark, I want to give you the floor here. I guess our best strategy here is to try and at least start negative and end positive. That's why I'm leaving Sheehan last. Tell me, Mark Radulich. Okay, you're reading this thing. You're going through all these procedures, pokes and prods at the hospital.
I was talking to. I'm going to take this as seriously as I can. Sorry. I was talking to Sheehan earlier today, and they said this felt very stream of consciousness. Now, maybe to him, no, this isn't stream of consciousness. This is purposeful and whatever else, but it's based on XYZ. But since I don't know what XYZ is, to me, it just felt like they put words on a dartboard through darts, and that became the script. I didn't understand half of what I was reading. It seemed very esoteric. It seemed very 60s acid trip to me, very Jack Kirby, but Jack Kirby without a plot. There was a lot of it that I started to kind of follow, but then they would do other stuff and characters would appear and then disappear, and they introduced Robotman, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're starting to get somewhere here. I know him from the show. I've seen him in the trailers, and then he gets hit by a truck. You have the ambulance driver, Casey Brinke.
Casey Brinke, yep.
And she's got a terrible roommate who then gets evaporated by a singing telegram, so she shows up, and then she's now in the apartment. And then I got that Danny was some sort of disembodied entity seemed to have powers of creation, but having no frame of reference, I didn't understand what was happening there. And at some point, Casey, doing her best Alice in Wonderland, was like, fuck this shit, I want to go home. And I was with Casey. Then Casey's leg fell off, and at that point, I just wanted to finish the book.
Oh man. And then she starts time traveling. You're like, well, what? Wait a second. And then you find out she's not exactly real, or she was. I mean, yeah, trust me, man. I was there with you. There was so many twists and turns and stuff that I was like, okay, I sort of see where we're going here. I could set it aside and be like, okay, this is some goofy, this is a fun way to tell a story. I'm not expecting them to spell it all out for me. Up until after I read the book, I didn't know there were a total of, this was the 6th volume of Doom Patrol. I knew they'd been around for a while. I knew their stories had been told. So I kind of figured that was going to be peppered in. Like, okay, well, I wasn't expecting to be a whole brand new, fresh take. Okay, here's Robotman. Here's his origin. Here's Casey Brinke. Here's her origin. They were building off. I could tell they were building off what had already been established. But go ahead, Mark. I interrupted you.
I've always said esoteric and, thoughtful and artsy. There's a place for it in comic books. It may not appeal directly to me, but I'm not the only audience member out there. I'm not the only reader. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like this, a teenager would be really into this, who fancies themselves, somebody
a little precious.
Yeah, thinks Holden Caulfield is the greatest thing to ever happen to literature. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think they would be very attracted to this. Like, well, this isn't like a Batman comic. That's for kids. This thing where they're driving an ambulance in space, there's some degree of action, but it's couched in endless dialogue that would make Kevin Smith shut up.
You thought it was endless dialogue, Kevin Smith style? This
was a bit wordy for me.
Oh wow! Oh man, Kevin Smith, dude. I don't know.
I don't mind wordiness if it gets to a point. I didn't feel like this ever got to a point. This again feels like I feel like Gwen Stacy should have showed up from the Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man and been like, life. What is life? Or better yet, oh gosh, what is the name of the robot from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? It's the blah blah, the paranoid android. But he's like brain the size of a planet, and they use me to toast bread or some shit like that. it's like there's a lot of that going on, and it's like, all right, this doesn't really appeal to me. The art I thought was a brilliant contrast. I'm like, Jesse, hold on to your fucking seat, buddy. I'm going to say something positive about art.
Oh, my goodness.
I like the fact that because this was over the top, esoteric, and almost otherworldly, and clearly, like, you had to be like Chris and have some sort of familiarity with the product, with the IP. That in contrast, you had this very much Sunday funnies, angular, bright colored art. It was very simple and very childish, and it actually kept me invested, because had this been Sam Keith watercolors with my penis, I would have said, let's do a different book. Because I can't then read this and look at the art, that looks like fucking Arkham Asylum, done with fucking chalk and just smeared on a page, and voila, the Joker. And be like, all right, I'm getting nothing out of this book. At least, to have these like high concepts, and then to have this very sharp, very
clean
art, clean art, I thought was brilliant. And that actually kept me wrapped up in the book. Like, I kind of wanted to see if this was ever going to make any sense, because I was enjoying the artwork. So, Chris, are you about done doing podcasts with me now after hearing that?
No, certainly not. No, I'm actually, I actually wanted to address a few of the things you said, because one of the things that Reggie and I had said many, many times, to the point where it almost became like parody, is that we talked about how certain writers, Gerard Way being one of them, perhaps the one that we were talking about most, they haven't earned what their output is. This Doom Patrol spoke to us because we know that Danny is a transvestite street, who brought together outcasts who can live and be accepted. But now he's actually gone a step further, and he's creating people to fill the streets. We could tell that because of the history we had. Gerard Way didn't set that table for you guys, which shows that he isn't as good a writer as I think he gets credit for. I don't think he has earned the kudos he gets. I don't think he earned the pats on the back that he constantly gets for just about everything he shits out. I really appreciate this discussion, because me and Reggie, we would never be new readers to this. So we would never know if this is a hit, if this is a miss. One of the things that we said often throughout our Young Animal read through was that this is something for precious teenagers. I think we're all about the same age. And I remember going into the comic store when I was 17, 18, buying a copy of X-Men, putting it on the counter, and then somebody like rolling their eyes because it wasn't Sandman, or it wasn't Shade the Changing Man. And it's like, okay, just get over yourself and ring me up, And I think that Young Animal, I just want to give you money.
Do you remember, just as an aside, do you remember the days where if you went into a comic shop and you weren't buying Savage Dragon or anything by Todd McFarlane, you were a dumb fuck loser? Remember those days?
Who didn't care about your investment portfolio. Because you're going to put down payments on everything, including college.
That's right.
But Young Animal has kind of taken that position, or it did while it was still, it's back now, but not in the same form. But I feel like that is for, like you said, Batman books are for kids. This is for me, because I'm mature now. The thing of it is we would never be able to get that disconnection, because we've read every single Doom Patrol book that's been out. I own almost every single Doom Patrol book that's come out, and it's just in me, and I know what's what. One of the things that Bailey did today, he sent me a picture. I think it was in our group text. He sent a picture of the It's a Doomed World After All ride from Doom Patrol 3. Yep. And he was like, what the hell is this? And it's like, well, dude, that's Dorothy Spinner. That's the first time we've seen her in 20 years. That's great. But for you guys, it's like, well, what do we care? That doesn't say anything to us.
No clue. I had none.
Exactly. It doesn't say anything to you guys, which is a failing of the book, because the book needs to tell a story and not be a complete fan wank. As a fan, I enjoyed the wank, but if I wasn't, I could understand why this would fall short, and that, because while I like it a lot for what it is, and what it is a reunion with characters I care a great deal about, there's also the bits like the Pop-Tart flying through space, ambulance, or the cat flying through, whatever the hell that thing is, that meme. But it's like, the rainbow coming out of the thing. It's like, oh, that's not for me. I know that's not for me, but it's in this book that I like anyway, so I'll deal with it. But without that connection and affection for the property, I could see how you'd see that and be like, what the hell am I looking at?
This to me was like showing a 5-year-old today Mel Brooks's Spaceballs with none of the references.
No context, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can see my son laughing at some of that stuff. Which, by the way, Jesse, have you checked out Booba? You should. It's hilarious.
Are you talking about the show Booba?
Yeah.
Like from PBS? Is that PBS?
I don't know where it came from, but my son played it last night, and I nearly blacked out laughing. I was laughing so hard. But yeah, like he's not, like he hasn't seen Aliens, but he would, the alien doing "Hello, my baby" would be hilarious to him, but he would have no context. And so I think that's why I think Spaceballs is a good one, because that's one where either you get the Star Wars, Star Trek, and Aliens references, or you don't, and you're just laughing at the physical comedy of it.
Sure. Mm-hmm. No, that's a very apt comparison. And you mentioned earlier that you wanted this to be going somewhere. The thing of this is, Gerard Way is a musician. He's very busy, and comics are probably one of the last priorities he has, despite the position he's been given. And
does he play jazz? Because this comes across like jazz.
He's the lead singer for My Chemical Romance.
Oh,
even worse.
Right.
Even worse.
I was going to say, I forgot all about that.
Yes.
Jeez Louise.
There was a girl I wanted to bang a few years ago who was into My Chemical Romance, and that's about the only positive thing I have to say about that.
And his street team followed me on Twitter when I started reviewing some of the stuff until they started reading what I was saying about it, and then they unfollowed me. So.
Like, oh.
The first 3 issues came out on time. After that, delays started setting in. I mean, this volume that we're reading here, it's the first 6 issues of a 12-issue series that took over 2 years to come out.
Yeah.
So I mean, this book, the last book before the miniseries that just started, was cover dated December 2018. So that's 25 months to get 12 books. So there's definitely some moving parts. Another thing I really appreciated about doing the preparation for this show is that I got to read this all in one gulp for the first time, because I was just reading this as it was coming out so I could review it. We'd have to go back to old issues because of the big time delays. And exactly, yeah, and just because Terry Nunn, who the hell is Terry Nunn? She was the singing Telegram, but then she sold shit to a grocery store, literally, and then we find out she's someone's daughter. I mean, it just goes off the rails. But we lost our frame of reference because of how many months and weeks and whatever were in between these issues. So there was definitely an unevenness in the storytelling, even in this first volume. I don't know if you guys could tell, the bit at the end, or toward the end, with Crazy Jane's cult. That was a single issue, which should have probably been an arc, which I think was probably originally planned as an arc. But due to the time constraints, they just shoveled it all in.
The way you're talking about this feels like Journey, the band. Mm-hmm. When they go out on tour, they just play the hits.
Sure.
And it's like, it's just one right after another, boom, 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 because that's what everyone paid tickets to see. They may have a new album out, but Def Leppard kind of does the same thing, where they may put a new album out, but nobody came here to see that. They all wanted to hear Pour Some Sugar on Me. And that's kind of what you're describing, is that
100%. It's a Grant Morrison tribute band.
Yeah. This is 6 issues of them playing the hits from albums I never listened to.
But also, he didn't stick the landing because he got distracted by something shiny. So, if this is what it's going to be, this 6 issues is just here's the fan wank, enjoy, and then we're going to hit the ground running. That'd be one thing, but that hitting the ground running never happened.
That's what I was going to say. You had the chance, covering the rest of these issues. You said it got crazy after this, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to separate the arcs here, because The second half of this volume was shit.
Really?
It was not good. There were tons of delays. The last issue, it was issue 12, didn't even feature the Doom Patrol. It featured that kid Lucius and his family walking through a Dungeons and Dragons world.
I saw the cover of that issue. And
it looks like an Atari cover. It looks cool, but it was garbage. And in reviewing those last few issues of Doom Patrol, that was the first time, and I think the last time I ever dropped an F-bomb on the air, because I try not to do that. It was because of a Doom Patrol issue that I finally did. And there was also the Milk Wars crossover that happened toward the end of this run too, which was absolute dog shit. So I'm trying to separate my the first arc, the second arc, and Milk Wars here, because that was just the worst. The first issue after this arc was drawn by Mike Allred, and they were promoting it for a while, and it was, okay, we're gonna buy some time here. Here's a Mike Allred issue, and the whole thing, it was a bare bones, almost Silver Agey Doom Patrol issue. It felt like filler. It didn't feel like the next step in the series. It just felt like filler, which ultimately and unfortunately informed how the rest of the series was going to go. I think the first 3 issues of this run that we read here are solid. Everything after that is really piecey, and then it just totally falls to pieces.
There were clearly points throughout these first 6 where, again, me not knowing what came before, I could tell they were jumping off of what has already been established. And then there were things in here that I didn't know if it had something to do with something that happened before, or if it was a new thing that they were getting ready to kind of explore later in the issue. Specifically.
Yeah, because he didn't explain anything, so how would you know?
Well, that's the truth. There's a point where I can remember this clear as day, because I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? There's a person in an astronaut suit walking outside of a building and puts out some, like, I don't know, it looks like some type of white cat food of some sort. I assume it's cat food because a cat eats it and then decides to grow legs, become
Lotion.
a person, and walk. Yeah, Lotion the cat walks away, and I'm like, okay, what's this? No clue.
That would be followed up on later on. That's the shit. That's the shit. From Terry Nunn. And Lotion, you might want to know, goes on to bang Casey Brinke. So. There's that.
Are you kidding me?
Nope, that happens.
Larry Trainer, I thought was interesting. I couldn't read. I had to speed read a lot of the stuff going on with him, because there was the change in the style of lettering, and everything.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I like I kind of wanted him to have his own series where he just has to initiate negative conflicts in order to not barf black goo everywhere. Because of all the things I saw in this comic, I was genuinely interested in that. And I think a guy who is otherwise a nice fella who has to create negative conflict in order to not die is fucking hilarious. And somebody needs to make that into a comedy.
It's true, but Larry's always a good character. In the Keith Giffen run, like, there was this running gag with Larry, and like he was like talking to a seagull. The entire series, there would be like a panel of him talking to a seagull. It was I don't think it went anywhere, but it just really spoke to how esoteric Larry is as a guy, and how you just don't know where he is because of the negative energy and all that stuff. I think he's ripe for mining. I think he could be a fun character to explore. I think the thing of it is they like doing Robotman. They clearly like doing Robotman. And,
Yeah.
I need to see Larry Trainer played by Bill Murray in his own solo movie. DC, make it happen.
Tell me about Flex Mentalo, because I've heard that name a lot.
He is an interesting character because for the longest time DC could not use him. There was a mini series that branched off of the Morrison Doom Patrol run. It was drawn by Frank Quitely, Morrison's oftentimes partner. It was 4 issues it was very metatextual. It was going through the different ages of comics, which back then was still novel. When you do it today, it's a bit much, but when, in the 90s, it's like, hey, this is pretty new. Flex Mentalo, he's the hero of the beach. He's basically Charles Atlas. If you remember those ads from the old comics with the kid getting sand kicked in his face. Well, someone brought that to the attention of the Atlas people, and DC got hit with a cease and desist.
Oh.
So for the longest time, They couldn't reprint this series. It became a holy grail for people. I've only managed to track down one of the issues of it, and but they finally put everything behind them, and they did put the volume out. But Flex he's a hard character to explain insofar as what he does, but he's just a muscle-bound man who can emit muscle mastery.
I had a good time reading this. I did. As much as I knew that there was stuff that came before it and was all throughout the series, that wasn't something where I was like, okay, this is a negative mark. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll enjoy it as it is. Either answers come later, or maybe what they're trying to do is spur my interest in going back further and learning where all these Easter eggs are coming from. What was your favorite there, Chris? What was your favorite nod to some of the previous stuff that happened? Was it, what's her name, the carousel?
It's a doomed world after all. The whole Casey discovering she's a golden age character, and just being immersed in Doom Patrol lore, and I loved a lot of the Nick Darrington here, this artist. He is fantastic. I'm a big fan of his. He's currently doing I think he's doing the Batman feature in the Walmart comics, the 100-page giants that Bendis is writing. I think he's wonderfully talented, and it's a shame that he got stuck on this book because it came out so sporadically. All the touches and the nods, like when you go into Lucius's bedroom and he's got all those heavy metal and satanic posters, but they're all kind of comic-y. Mm-hmm. Maybe like challenging the unknown and stuff like that, Yep. And then like Casey's in the comic store, and then they have the pastiche of the cover of Crisis number 7 with so it looks like you're having an existential crisis or whatever on top.
That was awesome.
I loved it.
I need a framed poster of that.
Absolutely. I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff, and I'm just a sucker for nods to stuff like this. But I totally understand why someone coming in fresh wouldn't get this and wouldn't appreciate it, and would really just want the story to get on.
I think that's my major knock on this, is that everything you're saying makes sense, and I'm going, I wish this had been written better to reflect what you're saying. I think there's room for fan service. So the trick with the Marvel movies has been nods to the comic while furthering the newly written plot that the screenwriters came up with. And the whole thing is show run by Kevin Feige. So there's continuity. It's funny. My wife had told me that her friend, who is, like a drama nerd and is into musicals, I'm showing my kids Star Trek and Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Little Shop of Horrors, and she's showing her daughter a West Side Story and Wizard of Oz. Well, everyone shows their kids the Wizard of Oz, but you know what I mean. She's raising this kid in musicals like I'm raising my kids in sci-fi and fantasy. Mm-hmm. But she told this is the point I'm trying to get to. She went to my wife. She was like, "Hey, I'm trying to understand these Marvel movies, and Mark seems to be the expert. I want to sit down and watch them with him, because if I watch them with my husband, he'll just get annoyed when I ask too many questions." If someone were to say to me, "Hey, what would you recommend, the DC slate of movies or the Marvel movies?" And even before I get to the conversation over who has the better quality movies, I would tell her Marvel, because at least there's an onboarding point. Mm-hmm. There's an onboarding point with a lot of these. There's a continuous story. They're sort of made mid-level for a broad audience, where the DC movies are not. So I think that should have been the approach to this comic. I'm not sure what the point of the Young Animals imprint was. I mean, if it was just to target teenagers and, and early 20-year-olds, like college kids, fine. But not everything has to be college level philosophy either. Create onboarding points for dopes like me, and make sure there's a story there to keep people invested, and then pepper in all this other stuff you're talking about.
Sure.
It feels like he was like, well, we're going to skip steps 1 and 2 and just go straight to step 3. And it's like, okay, well, then you're going to lose a third of your audience.
That's what I was trying to get at, and I totally went off tangent when I said that he doesn't earn what he's got. You have to lay the foundation before you put up a wall, and he just wanted to put up walls so it looked like a house. He didn't want to put in any of the fundamentals, which really caught up to him toward the end there, where he wasn't even building off the stuff that he had put in place. So it was just it was a plate of noodles, nothing was standing. There was no substance. And if you don't want deep philosophy, don't try Shade the Changing Girl or Shade the Changing Woman. If the Young Animal line, oh Lord, the first bit of that was okay, but then it gets really bad. Yeah,
in the next week or so, we're doing Hanna-Barbera versus DC3. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Oh man, I hate those. To go off on another tangent, because that's kind of what I do. I talked to a guy who ran a comic store out here who was going out of business, and he pointed to his new comics wall, and he said, "It's because of shit like this that I'm going out of business." And I looked, and it was all that Hanna-Barbera crap.
Oh
and
no!
He's like, the companies foist this stuff on us. They bully us into carrying it, and then nobody buys it. But it makes them look good. It makes DC and Marvel look good because they only count shipped numbers. They don't count sold. So
records were the same thing. When I worked in a record store in college, it was about what shipped and not what sold, and we got credit for selling stuff back because we were a used record store.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I hate to see that where they have to order enough stuff to have it on there, and
to get certain discounts and to not be put on the hated list, and there's a lot of politics behind the scenes too. And I mean, that's why you see like a book that came out today is like, oh, going to third print. It's like, no, it's not. There's 100 copies at every store. How are you going to second and third print?
Yeah,
but they only count shipped.
That's why a lot of these places have to double as gaming stores.
Funko Pops and yep.
There was a comic book store that had one wall of comics and the rest was Funko Pops. Yep. My kids loved it. Thought it was like a toy museum, and I'm just like, where are your comics? You said it said comics on the sign. Yep. I saw it.
Chris, I did want to ask you here. I mean,
Sure.
This is you got to feel after reading this and seeing it only go 12 issues. You love this team. You want to see it succeed. Is there something about the Doom Patrol that makes it hard to tell a story that people get interested in? Or, I mean, like I said, I haven't read the 5 volumes previous to this. So, and you mentioned there were some pretty, I recognize some of the creators, specifically Grant Morrison. That's by far the most loved. This ended in 2018. Is it still going on, or they're done, right? With this one?
Last week they released, or it'll be 2 weeks when the show comes out. They released the first issue of Doom Patrol: Weight of the Worlds, which is a miniseries, the third iteration of Young Animal. It came out. I reviewed it over at Weird Science, and I gave it a decent score because I tried to wrap my head around it and contextualize it in a way where I know it's not being written for a guy pushing 40. It's being written for someone pushing 20.
Yeah.
It's full of LOL random and retweet this, please, instead of like a story, which is kind of what we want out of a book, especially after, after the afterglow is gone. We've the honeymoon's over. We're all back. Let's get to work, and that's kind of the problem with the Doom Patrol is that, like Mark said, it's playing the hits. Everybody wants to play the hits because that's what people are going to squee over, and that's what people are going to give you the 10 out of 10 reviews for. That's what people are going to retweet and retumble or whatever the hell you do on Tumblr. It's just going to be circulated. And but if you're
Chris Sheehan needs intro music, and it needs to be accepts Analog Man.
Analog Man? Okay. All right.
I very much am an analog person. But it's and I had a similar thing go down recently with the post-Rebirth Titans series, not the Teen Titans, the Titans, where it was, Dick Grayson and Donna Troy, Speedy, Omen, all brought together. It's like you had those, and Wally West, of course. You had those first few issues where it's like, okay, cool, we're getting these characters talking to each other. They're reliving pasts. We're finding out what's in continuity a little bit, but then there has to be something after that. There has to be more. There has to be a plan. And for this story, I mean, this arc here ends, and we go into one that's predicated on creative use of the word shit. That's not a Doom Patrol story I want to read. It's all about consumerism, and it's like, oh, people will buy shit. And it's can we just move on? Can we get a fun Doom Patrol story? I don't need this. And
not to mention the Flintstones already did that.
Did they?
Well, there isn't much social commentary going on in these first 6. That's for damn sure. I mean, this is all way, that's one thing I was sitting there thinking of on the way home today. I was like, what am I going to talk about in regards to this? Because really the main thing that I got out of it is just how out there it is. And there's not really a big bunch of social commentary going on. There isn't, it's just more about the crazy, zany stuff that happens with the Doom Patrol and the people that are involved with them. Has there been any other title that's reached a volume 6 in DC's history, Chris, that you're aware of?
Oh, absolutely.
There has.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Green Lantern, Legion of Superhero. Volumes are not what they used to be. I mean, if we look across the street at Marvel, I think Punisher's on volume 11.
Okay.
I mean, they're just, that's just the era we're in, where we're starting everything at number 1 once a year. So it's, the volumes pile up. Doom Patrol, I took a picture of my Doom Patrol collection today and shared it. I mean, that's basically the entire run since 1963, and it's not very long.
No, it isn't. I was sitting there, I was like, well, how many more issues does he need to finish that? And you're telling me that
like a dozen? Yeah.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, there's the longest volume was the Kupperberg, Morrison, Pollock run, which went 87 issues. Everything else went 20, 22 maybe and below.
87 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a pretty significant
run.
That's
a decent run. That's a decent run.
So let me throw this out there. And I know, Chris isn't into the screen version of these things. Jesse, you're kind of hit and miss. I mean, you seem to watch when
I'm forced to, yeah,
the TV show. So you're a Warner Brothers executive, and you've got the DC people in your conference room, and you're like, okay, bring a list of your IPs. Let's put them up on the board, and let's figure out a strategy to monetize these things. And they're like, okay, well, obviously the Trinity, that's our big screen stuff. We've got our established CW things. Anything we can put in there, let's go ahead and put them there. Maybe some of this mid-tier stuff. Hey, what's gay and trans and hip right now? Good, Batwoman, go. And then it's like, okay, well, we have this streaming service because we want to be competitive with Netflix and Hulu and whatnot. So what aren't we going to make a movie out of? What aren't, and what do we got that's lying around? And Teen Titans was already something that they had tried to get on CW and I think TNT at one point. So
and they had that cartoon that ran for time that I think people were familiar with the IP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was an easy one. That was one that had already had a lot of pre-production, and at this point, it was either shit or get off the pot.
Sure,
but you've got to come up with other stuff to get people to buy your streaming service, because you're not buying it for the stupid comic books or anything else that's on that streaming service. And they're like, okay, but you can't use the movie stuff and you can't use the stuff we're going to slate for CW. And so they come up with Doom Patrol, and they come up with Swamp Thing, and they, and whatever else they're going to put on there. And I'm going through this, sort of spelling it out, because I'm going to direct this at Chris. Do you think, like, they're kind of looking at sales and, sales versus IP, and they're going, what if we made some TV shows on our streaming network out of these lesser known products? And that sparked some buying among the comic book / TV watching population. And it's like, let's get some Doom Patrol out there. We've had it forever. We'll make a TV show out of it. It'll be a hit. People will then want to go buy the comic.
I don't see it going that way. I see the movies, the TV shows, the app shows. I think they're all a one-way trip. You have people who read comics who go to that. You never see somebody, or very seldom do you see somebody go to the movies and be like, okay, I need to get in on this comic thing. Because even if they did, they're going to go to a store, see 20 pages for $5 and be like, screw that, and walk away. I think one of the most valuable things about the Doom Patrol is that it was lesser known. It's got very passionate fans. I mean, there are podcasts dedicated to it, great podcasts dedicated to it. But I don't think it's mainstream enough to where everyone would be able to point out inconsistencies or just even feel uncomfortable with inconsistencies. So you have this IP Doom Patrol that you can organically spin out from the Titans, because that's something that they did. I mean, not back in the 60s, but when Wolfman and Perez came in, there was the search for the Doom Patrol. Robotman was found, and they were looking for the Doom Patrol and who put them out, and it was a really good story. So you could take from that and can launch a show. I don't know why the hell Cyborg's part of it. That's weird to me, but
because they want a high profile black character, and they fucked him up in the movie.
Oh, No, I couldn't say, but there have been no volumes of Doom Patrol that has had Cyborg as a member. You have Vox. You've got Mal Duncan. There's your black dude.
I guarantee you there was a strategy session for that show.
Oh, 100%.
They're like this person's in it, this person's in it. And they're like, okay, well, why don't we put Cyborg in there because he was really misused in Justice League? And they're like, he was never in Doom Patrol. Like, name a black character that people know more than Cyborg, and then everyone just kind of threw their papers in the air.
Mm-hmm. It's the same meeting they had when they launched the New 52 Justice League. So it was very similar.
I feel like they probably wanted to put him in Titans somehow, and we're like, well, we can't because we've got the story written and it'd be too much. Well, yeah. So they don't do that, and they're like, well, we'll just throw him into Doom Patrol. We need to have Cyborg somehow represented in on the shows. You know, I don't know. The Doom Patrol show, though, from what I understand, haven't watched much of it yet, but a lot of people have said it's really, really good, which surprised me because this is another one of those things where I'm expecting, hey, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, well, okay, that movie's not going to do very good. Who the hell knows anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy? And then it ends up catching fire with some great storytelling.
But that's because James Gunn knew exactly what he was doing with that series.
Okay,
that has nothing to do with the inherent goodness of the Guardians of the Galaxy and its appeal to a mass populace, and more on James Gunn going, you know what people like? Music they recognize.
That is a good point. A good point. But yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the series itself. So I don't know why they chose Doom Patrol. I thought it was odd that they took that and put them in a series.
I don't know what the demographic that are they aiming for? Late teens, early 20s? Because Swamp Thing is kind of deep, and it feels like they're aiming for I hasten to call it a mature crowd, but the more mature than kid crowd.
Oh, it's a mature crowd because within 10 minutes, Brendan Fraser is seen banging some chick. Then
hang on. Does Chris Sheehan know about Fuck Batman?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And it was in that moment that I knew, because I was never going to watch it to begin with. But when I heard about that, it was just like this. What is this? What in the world is this? This is and this is supposed to be Dick Grayson, right?
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong with these people?
I will tell you exactly what happened there. There's a meeting between television executives and comic book writers, and the comic book writers are just trying to get out of their room with their penises intact.
They didn't succeed.
Why can't you do something gritty with this? Why does Dick Grayson have to be Batman's ward? How about if we tell him fuck Batman? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can we get a swinging soundtrack with this? Oh wait, never mind. So all right. So this was a very long-winded, winding road to get to your simple answer, which is no. Nobody's watching this television show and then running out and buying Doom Patrol.
I don't think so. And even if they did, where are they going to go? There's no Cyborg in Doom Patrol. I don't know what the stories are in this Doom Patrol show. I saw pictures of it, and it looks like the world's coolest cosplay. But that's about as far as I went with it. I'm never gonna watch it.
Sheehan's watching this thing going, is this a commercial for Comic-Con? What the fuck is
it? I saw like the Robotman. I'm like, wow, that's a really good costume. It's like, oh, that's a show? I had no idea. I don't see people running from that, especially not to this Gerard Way run, because that from what I've seen in the pictures, that looks like a very dark show, like just in tone and framing. It doesn't look like it's very bright and sunny.
Could you take a guess where they're grabbing the aesthetic from? What run of Doom Patrol you think is informing the television show just based on what you've seen?
I would assume that it's probably the Morrison run.
Okay.
I couldn't say. I'm totally talking out my ass right now, but I would say that's probably the one because I know a buddy of mine said that they're going to be doing the anatomy lesson in Swamp Thing pretty soon. And I mean, just judging from seminal runs, the Morrison run is pretty much as seminal as you get, at least as we are today.
Oh gosh, which one are we doing, Jesse?
I think that's the first bit of Alan Moore's run.
That is the anatomy lesson.
Yeah.
You will have the anatomy lesson in there.
Yeah, we're doing the first book of Alan Moore, Saga of the Swamp thing.
Yeah, the second or third issue in that trade will be the anatomy lesson, because the first one's a wrap-up of the Pasco run.
Well, let's get into our final thoughts there. Mark Radulich, final thoughts on 2016 Doom Patrol Volume 1, brick by brick.
My final thoughts is George Lucas started in the middle. People should stop imitating him. When you write a story, start at the beginning. When you get to the end, stop. I don't know why it's a hard concept.
Pretty simple. Pretty simple.
Other than that, it was I really enjoyed sort of the Sunday Funnies aesthetic for the artwork.
Okay. All right, Chris, tell us your thoughts here, man.
Adored the art. Thought that there was a lot of promise going into this. The first 3 issues for me delivered in spades. After that, things fell apart. I think I'd recommend this trade to people if they were interested in checking it out. But I don't know that I'd recommend going much further.
I personally, I had a good time. Again, if you're just looking for something to read and you don't you're not going to go into it with a lot of expectations of knowing exactly everything that's going on and just be there for the fun of it. I think this is worth a pickup, at least to check out, and then make your decision as to whether you want to proceed further. So,
all right, Jesse, I have one more final thing to ask Chris.
Okay.
Chris, recommend to the people listening to this podcast, they've heard us talk this book, they've heard your lengthy explanation of the history of Doom Patrol, and they heard a little bit of us talking about a show we haven't watched yet. So someone coming away from this podcast going, I'm not sure what to make of this. I'm going to go read something from Doom Patrol. What do you steer them to first?
Grant Morrison, Crawling from the Wreckage. The first trade. I think it's Crawling from the Wreckage. It's right behind me, is it? Yes, Crawling from the Wreckage. That's the first Grant Morrison trade. It's available in many different formats. I'm sure it's available digitally. But that's probably where you're going to have the most fun. That's where I started. I mean, I didn't... The Silver Age stuff, the stuff that came before that, the Kupperberg stuff, that's the stuff I have the least experience with because I've only read it a time or two. But the Morrison run is something that before I started blogging and podcasting, it was something that I would read through yearly. Just now, you guys know, creating content, you don't have time for the fun projects. It's just about the gig. That's one that I would return to time and again, and it's one that I think a lot of folks would get a lot out of, especially if you're able to get into the gestalt of it and realize that it did come out in 1989 when so much of this stuff that he was writing was so forward thinking and so novel to where now you look at it and it's like, okay, well, this has been done, but it's like, no, it hadn't been done before this. This is where this kind of writing to me started.
Is this a good onboarding point, or will this someone a nosebleed?
Yeah, you'll get onboarded pretty easily with this run here. You're introduced. It's a very it's a skeleton crew. Morrison had the detritus exiled. He had the characters he didn't want to deal with booted away. This team is going to be Robotman and the Chief, and you're going to meet Crazy Jane. You're going to meet Dorothy Spinner. What's his face? Josh Clay is there on the sidelines, not really doing too much, so you don't really need to know much about him. But you'll get their first couple of adventures in that trade, and it's worth checking out, I'd say.
This has been Source Materials coverage of Brick by Brick, Volume 1 of the 2016 run on Doom Patrol. Okay, now plug time. All right, so
plug time.
Chris Sheehan, please, sir, you have the floor. Tell us all about it.
You could check out, if you want to hear more of my voice, you can do so at chrisandreggie.com or chrisandreggie.podbean.com or on, what is that thing, Podnickel?
Podcoin.
Pod Peso. You can find us there, and you get paid to listen or something, or you get coffee. I don't know, but you could find us there, and we will be back doing Cosmic Treadmills probably within the next month and a half. Reggie got his graduation date from the facility, so we'll be getting back to work before the end of the summer. For now, I'm doing a little bit of solo stuff since I've gotten my druthers back up again, so you can hear some of my stuff until then. Also, still blogging daily over at chrisisoninfiniteearths.com. Right now, or as you're listening to this, I will have just wrapped up my Christmas on Infinite Earths in July event, where I go through Christmas with the Superheroes number 2 from 1989, going through each story each day, and then going to compile it at the end of the week. After that, back into Action Comics Weekly all the time.
Very good, very good. All right, Mark Radulich, what do we have on the schedule for the Radulich in the Broadcasting Network?
All right, tomorrow on Damn You Hollywood, on the docket is Crawl, the horror movie featuring hurricanes, Florida, and hungry gators. We We got the Texas Hippie Coalition on the Metal Hammer of Doom, and the aforementioned Doom Patrol series from DC Universe. Watch it while the streaming service still exists, because it's going away, I'm sure, once Warner Brothers creates their own. We got Fight for the Fallen. I'm sorry. We got Fight for the Fallen on the 13th. Wait, this is next week. Time travel. So check out the archives. Well, there was coverage Fight for the Fallen, AEW, and WWE Extreme Rules. This Saturday, myself and Pat Mullen will be doing some live boxing commentary. We got Plant versus Lee on Fox. You're watching Fox. Look at last week, we was all Spider-Man all the time. We looked at Ultimate Spider-Man by Broken Michael Bendis, Volume 4. We did a review of Spider-Man Far From Home. We reviewed Amon Amoth Berserker, and we did an on trial. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. You'll have to find out. For Spider-Man 3, was it the huge trash pile everyone thinks it was? Yes, but I'm going to defend it anyway, or I did defend it. Time travel. Next week, we've got Cloak and Dagger from 2018, issues 1 through 6, called Shades of Grey. Hopefully it will not be an esoteric, over-the-top mess like this was. We'll have a Damn You Hollywood review of The Lion King, Sabaton, The Great War, because who doesn't like metal with their war? And then finally, Jesse and I will talk about a Weird as Shit show. Do you like Weird as Shit, Chris? This is Weird as Shit. Cloak and Dagger, Season 2.
Is that based on the comic?
It is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, that's great. That's great. Yeah. I was going to thank you guys for letting me be the positive guy on the show for once. I'm usually not. So this was an odd role reversal, and I appreciate it.
It's arbitrary.
You saved this show, because if it had just been Jesse, it would have been like, what'd you think of this? I don't know, dude. Let me tell you about my CAR T treatment today. That would have been the show.
What was it? Jessica Jones was like a 25-minute podcast, because we just walked into that like, okay, man, this is all right. And then we walked out.
Jessica Jones was a 5-minute podcast and 20 minutes of Maria Hill dick jokes.
Yes, it was. Yes,
you will believe a woman can stand and pee.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, I think it's time to end. Mark, is there any other plugs?
No, I think I'm done talking.
Thank goodness. All right. Well, for Mark Radulich, currently podcasting out of Mobile Studio One, and for the departed CB3, Chris Bailey, otherwise known as Hero, we wish him well on his tattoo removal. What a rough day that man had. Glad he was able to get on here and at least hang out with us for about half an hour. And from the Cosmic Treadmill, Chris Sheehan, thank you for coming on here. I appreciate it greatly, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we are going to get out of here. This has been Source Material. We will catch you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to give that Radulich in Broadcasting Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts we have to offer. We are at home on Spreaker, but you can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and recently we have hit the air on Spotify. Find your favorite podcast platform and type in RADULICH to subscribe for some great content. If you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word. And as always, we appreciate any feedback and look forward to entertaining you again soon.
I mean, I have been on a podcast where Mark has fell asleep and slept talk during the podcast.
I'm going to tell you what I told Jesse. I told those nurses, get the fuck out at podcast time.
Oh boy, do I have questions.
Yeah, I have a question. What was the story about? Because I didn't understand any of it.
Did you see Danny shooting through the stars with a rainbow behind him?
Great Space Coaster, get on board. For the Great Space Coaster, we'll explore.
Prepare the rocket.
Fuck you to Chris Bailey for stealing my Tron joke.
Oh, no. There's no jokes in Tron. Come on.
Well, there goes the gag reel. Son of a bitch.
Which evoked that scene from Clue. I am your singing telegram.
Never seen it.
Oh, you fucking...
I'm sure it's a surprise, but I haven't either.
Oh, it's true.
Last thing we need is more cat rape, all right? What the fuck, man?
I don't know about you guys, but have you ever been raped by a cat? It's not fun.
I can tell you.
Imagine the barbed, yeah.
Exactly. That's where I was going to go.
You know, like, think about, like, the Marvel, you don't watch movies. Chris, at any time you want to punch me, let me know.
Ask me how much Swamp Thing I've read, and that's about as much as Doom Patrol. So,
so it's Doom Patrol presents the Seven Samurai.
I don't know what that is.
Mark, are you making a movie reference here?
Akira Kurosawa, you guys.
Who?
The Seven Samurai. It was a 1954 movie by Akira Kurosawa.
The IWGP champion.
So, okay, let me try this one more time. Back it up a bit. So this Grant Morrison run is the Doom Patrol's version of the Magnificent Seven.
Just agree with him.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Very astute.
Terrific.
Yes.
Kind of one guy from Russia and another guy who doesn't watch movies. Fantastic. I got told because I'm in this clinical trial and I'm like the only one at Moffitt that I'm a rock star.
Oh,
yep.
Really?
I have a podcast and I've been in bands and I've done all kinds of things and I was a wrestler. But the thing I'm going to get known for, getting cancer.
I don't know whether that's dark.
Just try and end the show now, Jesse.
I'm trying my best here.
I'm back. Okay, everybody. I am back here. Just want to lay down some knowledge here. An interesting note, Larson took over on Doom Patrol on issue 6 and drew it through issue 15. Looks like, guys, anybody? Fans? Merge? Peter? Feel I'm alone here. Guys?
Dunkin' has a whole new line of handcrafted signature lattes. Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, and Cocoa Mocha. They're so delicious, you'll realize that you've been spending a whole latte time drinking the wrong coffee. So even though you've been together for years, it's time to say goodbye to your ex, Coffee Place. Because you've got a latte love for Dunkin's signature lattes. Sipping is believing with Dunkin's new handcrafted signature lattes, like Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, or Cocoa Mocha. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.
With Dunkin' Go-Tos, you can get a great deal on 2 of your favorites, like 2 egg and cheese wraps for $2, 2 bagels with cream cheese spread for $4, and 2 bacon, egg, and cheese croissants for $5. In my opinion, it's a deal that's pretty tough to beat. That's just if you want my go-to cents. If you don't want my go-to cents, it's go too late. Dunkin' Go-Tos, a great deal for $2, $4, or $5. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.